Welcome back again for another edition of Ricans. All right, I'm Mo,
I'm Lou.
and we're going to continue off from where we left off the last time when we were talking about Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I think you were telling me about Kazoo.
Yeah, why didn't they use him more in terms of he is from a future?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they use him for? He's from the future. Was he an alien or from the future? I'm not too sure.
I think he is an alien. I
Uh,
mean, of course, he has future tech, which goes without
yeah,
saying,
th-
and he
th-
always things with a snap of a finger.
yes, they should have used him more for Flintstones in terms of having him meet different characters in the Hanna Barbera universe. That would have been uh, a nice little crossover to do every once in a while, not too often.
Yeah, once in a while. But
Yeah,
then again, crossovers were kind of a rare thing if you when you come to think about it.
yeah, yeah.
It's like it was so rare. Like now, I mean, like they did with the live action Marvel with Infinity War and all the Marvel titles, Infinity War, Endgame, you had Captain America. All these characters, the actors are crossing into each other. Before would never be heard of. Rarity. I mean, the rarest time I think I've ever seen something like that was when the Incredible Hulk did TV movies and they introduced him and Daredevil in one movie, him and Thor in another movie.
Hmm.
Probably the only time you ever saw a weird a pairing whatsoever of two characters playing, two actors playing different characters.
Wouldn't it be awesome if Disney bought DC?
I don't know. See, that's that.
That would
I
be an
don't
interesting
know. I mean,
multiverse. That
yes.
would
I mean, you could probably then
that would
see
be
like we saw in comic books when like that one where they did the crossover between DC and
amalgamated.
Marvel, and then the
Amalgamated.
fans chimed in as far as who by percentage. Like when there was they had the battle between Superman and the Hulk, the fans decided who would be the winner based on the polling. So they
Hmm.
took the large polling, they showed it, and then they showed Superman as the winner. Bang, they created the scene, had the fight. Okay. I mean, they also then did that whole thing where they wind up crossing and created what they call the amalgamated universe, in which there was a version of Tony Stark and Green Lantern, or what was the one that I saw before? I mean, there was so many variations. It was not funny how they crossed into one another and made the amalgamated universe. That was like what 6 months, one series, and then all of a sudden, bam, it
It's
all
crazy how you
disappeared, separated.
it's crazy how you mentioned the Hulk and Superman. I looked up when you said that. I have a on my wall a framed Superman Spider Man. It says
Mm,
the Battle of the Century: Superman versus the Amazing Spider Man, and
yeah,
it's an oversized like a magazine trade book.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But having them buy out DC, I mean, granted, right now it's like they're pretty much gambling. Let me not say gambling. They're putting their eggs into one basket right now with James Gunn reintroducing this universe.
That's not gonna work.
So I'm kind of like crossing my fingers that it does work, but at the same time, I'm not happy with the way things evolved to that moment.
Yeah.
Like again, what they did to Henry Cavill. You know, that one moment he's in and he's announcing it to the world. Then they bring these guys on, and then all of a sudden they say, "We're done with you. Sorry. I mean, we'd like to talk about other things in the future, but not Superman." I'm like, really? And even though this movie that's coming out, Legacy, it's taken from the books and all from between Legacy and All Star Superman. The thing is, it's not a young Superman we're talking about. I mean, yes, you want to bring in someone different because you want the next 10 years. You're trying to do the same thing as Marvel and plan out the next 10 years. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with having Cavill do it. I
Hmm.
mean, until I see Cornswat go up on the screen and see, the story and how he portrays it, I really don't see a reason why you got rid of Cavill. I don't. But I'm still hoping that it's still good, that this gamble is going to pay off, because quite frankly, it's like, if it winds up being a dud, that's not going to look good, even for him, Safran, and the fact of their investment. And DC again has another flop on their hands.
Yep.
So so. Whereas if Disney was to buy them out, then yeah, but it's not a matter of them buying them out. It's a matter of who's going to make the decision making. Do you give it to Feige and let him do both? Oh, oh. So I mean, granted, though, that Marvel didn't have any, as of late, some of their titles didn't go so well.
Give it a Snyder.
But that's the difference. Like, yeah, the CEO said we need to step back, we need to relook and say, listen, fans are not coming to the theater because they can't afford to. It's because they want the good content, the stuff that made us buy Marvel in the first place, those first 10 years. Because in those first 10 years, maybe one or two weren't great. But that's kind of a granted that, that's, but the thing is, as long as their greatness is consistent, and that means going beyond, Endgame into all these other features in the Phase 5. So hopefully, like, Wolverine and Deadpool and all the other titles to follow will be good quality. The things that we've expected from Marvel, to seeing our characters up on the screen, whether it's the large screen or the small screen. So again, if that would be the case and DC was to jump on board and they were bought, I'm hoping that you give it to one person who would actually, even if it is Feige, that I know would then put it in the course that it needs to be, so that viewers like us, comic book and audience-wise, can go then see something and enjoy it, not sit there and go, I paid $20 for what?
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes what you get. I mean, so yeah, I'm in the middle with that. Yes and no when it comes to Disney buying DC, if that would be the case.
And back to Hanna-Barbera.
Okay, so we had the great Kazoo, but we also had some other great ones that I wanted to touch on. One of my favorites, excuse me, was Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Now, good idea. Love the whole, protecting the environment, wind, fire, earth, form them, make Captain Planet, and then he's the one that goes and saves the days and saves the planet from whatever environmental disaster. Again, why didn't they make this a live action film? I mean, I would love to see that as a live action film.
I know why.
Go ahead.
Cheesy.
What?
Cheesy.
Well, kind of, sort of, but okay. Again, if this was like a Disney animated version versus a live action version, like a 3D animated version of the film, you get voice actors for it. That's more sellable in that respect, because it's still keeping its animated roots, but now you're bringing the character to the big screen instead of just the small screen.
Bigger cheesy. I'm sorry.
Bigger. Well, yeah, but still, I have to say it had a great following during its run. If I'm not mistaken, it lasted 6 years on screen, so it had an audience. Now the question is, how much of an impact it would have now if they were to watch it now?
The topic of the show was always how to keep Earth's environment clean, correct?
Yeah, because look at what's happening now. So a show like that, with a show like that right now happening, it promises, to then educate the young viewer.
Yeah.
It's like, if we're being now at this point in time, conscientious of our environment and what we're doing to it, a show like this would have some sort of movement. if you don't keep it cheesy, like you said, if you take the cheesy element out, make it not too adultish, but enough that a child can like it, maybe learn from it. Yeah, I would say a 3D animated version of this show would probably be very successful this time now, since the subject of the environment in general terms is necessary
Yeah.
and being talked about as well.
I mean, I
So
say
I
it's
could check
cheesy,
that out.
but it had its moments where it gave not only a story, but it gave that oomph, like, hey, this can happen if you don't take care of this, like it made a person think, you know.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah. So
So on to my next favorite one, and I mean, and this one is kind of a fan favorite. I know many people that love this, you as well. Space Ghost and Dynaboy.
yeah.
Space Ghost. I mean, come on now.
Yes,
Just
yes.
that alone, I just keep thinking of that every time. When I look at him, he's like the Batman of the spaceways, because there's not a beam on his gauntlet he don't have, and yet he's only got 3 buttons,
Yeah,
6 if you count each arm. I'm like saying, dude, but you got like so many different weapons in these gauntlets.
yeah.
Oh my god! But it was so fun to watch. And
It
that
was.
monkey
I
blip.
loved it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
got
I loved it.
Jan, Jace, the monkey blip, Moltar, one of his enemy, Brack, Zorak, Dynaboy, and the caveman. It doesn't get any more fun than that, bro. I wonder sometimes when I watch this stuff and I read this stuff now, and I'm like saying, I can imagine being in a room with these guys when they're coming up with this stuff. And I'm like, now he's gonna have 2 teenage kids as a sidekick. And a monkey, right? Monkey Blip. He's gonna be the comic relief. Yeah, 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 yeah. And don't forget Dana Boy. I mean, to me, it would be like a smoke-filled bong section, and yet I become the classic cartoon. Go figure. Go figure.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great cartoon. But then they kind of went too far with the space goes coast to coast thing.
Yeah,
They kind of
yeah,
went
I
too
remember
far.
that. Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That whole talk show event where he's sitting there with guest stars and
And yet it had a following.
yeah, strangely enough.
Yeah,
But then again, I guess during that time period, some of the other late night talk show hosts were like, yeah. So we give you Space Ghost. And hey, some of the same guests that were on those shows were on his show.
yeah,
But then again, it's the host. Oh my God. I'm like, no, no. And yes. And so Space Ghost, I would wonder, like, if they ever brought that, like, in the big screen, who, and even if you did it as comedy, who would be
Schwarzenegger.
the person? Huh?
Schwarzenegger.
You want Schwarzenegger to play Space Ghost? Get down,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
down.
yeah. Exactly, exactly, exactly.
I'm a cop, you idiot. No.
That would be awesome.
Oh my God, that would be extremely hilarious.
Yeah.
But as Schwarzenegger, I don't know. Yo,
Or
if you're listening,
Stallone.
you're watching this, Schwarzenegger, go ahead and talk about Space Ghost and being that.
Stallone.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Just thinking about it.
Who
And
would
then
you? Who would you get? Who would you get to play him?
I was thinking if I had to go with something like really extreme, Jim Carrey
Hmm,
to play Space Ghost,
interesting.
because he could take it to that next step above. I mean, and then give him a padded suit, a padded bodysuit, because definitely with his physicality and comedy, I'm just thinking about him cracking up of how he would approach how Space Ghost is to walk, how he's supposed to look. Pretty sure he'll watch the cartoon, but him taking it like 10 times more,
Yeah.
Carrie style, and just forget about it. I could just be cracking up on just what he does with that character alone. Kind of like a
Okay.
Fire Marshal, space version of Fire Marshal Bill.
Okay. Okay.
Who would you see in the character? Who would you see acting that part?
Michael Keaton.
Oh, oh, hmm. If you're gonna go dark, that would be the person I would choose and go
Exactly.
dark with it. I mean, I'm seeing him with the cowl, just looking at people and just going, you know, you know, want to get nuts? Let's get
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. Like adding him to the more like making him more realistic. I would add Keaton.
Yeah. If you wanted to make it more realistic, true, you could add Keaton. Of course, not a
Mhm.
talk show, but yeah, nice total space adventure. I mean, I don't know if you want to get Blip the monkey,
And
but
and and just to throw people off at the end of the movie itself, whatever movie it is,
mm-hmm,
as an end credit extra scene,
mm-hmm,
have him sit behind the desk of Space Coast, coast to
coast to
coast.
coast and
Yeah.
do a talk show. Yeah.
Interviewing the actor who played the villain.
Or being interviewed, like have him on the
Yeah.
Tonight Show and he's being interviewed right then and there,
Yeah. Exactly.
with his heroics and stuff. Maybe even, blast the host and then take over. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I could see that happening. I could really see that happening. That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. And from fun to a little bit of more of the goofy, but yet kind of actionly, my favorite, my personal favorite, the first one, of course, from
Actually.
78 to 81, Godzilla.
Ah,
Oh my God. That King of the Monsters and the Monster Hour, man. That Godzilla was my favorite. Whenever they hit that button, and he's coming out of the water, it's like, oh shit, things are gonna get down now.
yeah.
That
I
was a
didn't.
kid.
I don't have so much recollection of that one for some reason.
Oh, I do. I remember. Was it up from the depths, 40 stories high? He's breathing fire, mad in the sky. Godzilla, Godzilla. Of course, by the third season, they added Hengatsuki, and then they had it. Just became probably that's towards the end when they added the little kid. And then when they didn't have the button, then they had the little kids. They call them. It's like that's how I sounded like when I was
So,
screaming for mom.
so,
Hello.
so what you're saying is, by the third season, it became Captain Planet. Cheesy.
Yeah, it got a little cheesy, but I was hoping when it had its next season it would. But then it got canceled. I was like, damn. But I always loved that one. I mean, they did bring it back, but they brought back the other Godzilla. I'm not talking about that one. No, 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 no. Never favorite of that one. Never favored that one. Though I will admit, I gave it the due diligence it deserved and watched it. It was like, okay, not bad, but nothing. I'm nostalgic for the old one. I'm sorry. I mean, for those who did love it, not taking anything away from you, just me personally, no. But if you watch the old ones, they had their moments and it was pretty fun to watch. I mean, it was another adaptation that with Godzilla that it wasn't just on the screen him destroying stuff whatever, but try to portray him as a hero like in the years of the mid 70s before the 80s. They were trying to do that in Japan. Toho had done Godzilla versus Megalon and then Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster, but then it was dubbed then after that Mecha Godzilla.
Mm.
But if you saw in the guy in the suit, the face of that Godzilla, different, child friendly, fan friendly, so that way, kids would gravitate more to it because the opposite of him was the turtle Gamera, and kids were gravitating to it completely, even though he had saber tooth, teeth. He was still a turtle. Some kids back then, turtle was a favorite pet to have. And so he
Yes.
gravitated. So they wanted to do the same thing with Godzilla, and they did, and it made him more hero-like. Gave it more emotion. I mean, when a monster stands and gets into a kung fu stance, I'm like, what?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, a little much, but okay, I'm gonna go with it. It seems like fun. I mean, that's the film out there in Toho. That's how they filmed it, and that's how they created all these great characters from that point forward. So I loved every moment of it, every moment of it. Okay, so and then one in particular that I just wanted to throw in that I came across, and I don't know if you remember this one, but it only had a 2 year season um, view, and that was the the famous game, Pac-Man.
Ooh,
You remember Pac-Man?
I liked Pac-Man.
And I mean, I'm looking at the list of characters here, and I'm going to read them off. I got Pac-Man, Pepper, which is Mrs. Pac-Man, Pac Baby, and then you got Chomp Chomp, Sour Puss. That one's too easy. I'm not touching that. Super Pac, PJ, Mesmeron, Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, which is usually the four ghosts that are chasing him around the place while he's just eating everything in sight. And
Hmm.
I was like, wow. I mean, I forgot I watched that cartoon as well. I mean, it was in between what you call it, either Godzilla and either Flintstones to follow. So you had that one in between that they throw in there, just to pass the time because they didn't like stack their lineups with everything at once.
Didn't did Sonic come out first as a cartoon or Pac-Man? Which one?
Pac-Man first, Sonic second,
I
because
always
it
like
was that Sonic became the next favorite right after Pac-Man,
yes.
but it had a more larger following than Pac-Man did. I mean, Pac-Man was great. It still is great because of the game aspect. I mean, I can't imagine anyone that doesn't have either, tendonitis in between their fingers from trying to outwit and dodge and figure out the maze of trying to get the big ball so that way you can eat the ghosts
Yeah.
and finish every level. But with Sonic, it was more of the days of the at-home console games when that one came out. But then the beautiful thing I liked about the console games as time went on is that they started being like movies. You get a trailer for the story of the next game coming out. So it's like,
They
and
do
then
that
they
now.
became interactive. There was a movie within the game. Because I remember back in the days when I was playing games, but I was doing computer based, and I came across interactive. I came across a game called Wing Commander, Heart of.
Mm.
It featured what's his name, Mark Hamill, legendary of Luke Skywalker,
Yes.
the main pilot and the character. So it was the first time I was actually not playing. I mean, I played, but I had to watch the story. I had to watch the movie in order to understand not the mission that I'm going to do, but the implications of that mission. So that way, when I fly it, my goal is to win it so that I can go on to the next view. I mean, if I died, I had this beautiful funeral scene in which they eject me into space. It's like, oh, even I cried one time.
Didn't
But
they
either way,
didn't they do a live action
yes, Wing Commander.
yes. Yes.
Yes, it was right after I think the game Wing Commander 4, the Cost of Freedom it was called.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of touched on both aspects of the first, the Kilrathi War with the cats, and then the Price of Freedom, which continued after the war. So they touched on those both subjects. But honestly, it was okay. It wasn't great. It was
Mm.
okay. I mean, the games and the interaction from the because they filmed it, and it was first a CD ROM game, and then when they evolved to DVD ROM games, DVD gave them the ability of creating film-like feeling.
Right.
So you had an actual movie that you were a part of, and the part you played is flying the missions that you had to win to advance the movie or take it into a different direction because they always had different directions that they wanted to go with that. And that was the beauty of interactive. And so Sonic was just like that. It was interactive. It had a story, and that's why it had such a huge following even till now. What's called? I think Knuckles, the
He's getting his
Knuckles
own movie.
is getting his own movie. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just saw a trailer of it, and I'm like, ooh, this looks fun. I mean, I love the first one because of the fact, again, Jim Carrey playing that character in Sonic. I mean, I'm like, wow. I mean, Jim Carrey is at his best playing that character.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second film featuring Knuckles, and now there's a third one which Knuckles has his own film, and I think it's Idris Elba who's doing the voice of Knuckles.
Yeah.
So it's cracking me up when I see him speaking, and I just see Knuckles, and I'm like, I shake my head, but it's wonderful.
They have the series out now, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, they have it out. Again, another evolution of the fact that the game translated into game. I mean, from movies to television to a series. So, and I think they had their own comic book at one point too. I'll have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure they had their own comic book. So it branched out so far that that's how good it was, that it went in all these areas. It was marketable and people loved it, or not loved it, still love it, and still want more. A testament to that.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about those old, nostalgic cartoons that one, it takes me back to when I was a kid and how I enjoyed, comics and cartoons of the like. But you gotta remember, back then those cartoons are a lot like the cartoons of today. Like Tom and Jerry was funny even.
Until they
Uh,
started talking.
well, yeah, until they started talking. The movie that they did, the film feature, they didn't talk. So they kind of had me with that
But
because their expressions were better than the actual words.
and in the
And
series, they toned down the beating.
yeah, I'll never forget the one time that Tom actually spoke is in the episode where he got a book on how to catch a mouse,
Yeah.
and he followed the book, and then uh he was chasing Jerry, and he got him into a corner. So Jerry's like, and he's tired, and he's backed in the
Yep.
corner.
Yep.
He goes through the book, and he says, "A cornered mouse never fights." Takes the book, he throws it away. He jumps in. You hear all sorts of beatings going on, blah blah blah, like Batman, kazam, kaboom, bang. And then he pierces his head out when it stops. He's got one eye closed, lump on his forehead, a patch on the side of his face, and he keeps saying the same thing. Don't you believe it?
Yeah. Yeah.
As a kid, I never stopped laughing so hard watching that scene. But and then the thing is that catchphrase stays with you because there are times that people say something that I know that they're full of BS, and I'll go to them. I go, "Don't you believe it?"
Mm-hmm.
I bring it to the forefront because that's how it stuck with me. So even in my adult days, that catchphrase is perfect to use even now. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I mean, all these scenes when Tom Cat was turned into a baby, and then they had that famous song, "Mama Yo Quiero." Mama, mama, yo quiero, mama.
Yeah.
That
My
one,
favorite. My
and the two
favorite Tom
cats
and
fighting
Jerry.
over the chick, huh?
My favorite Tom and Jerry was when the mouse's Jerry's uncle came. Pico.
Oh, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
nephew.
Yes.
Yeah, I am singing it. Come on and heating, riding. Come on.
Yeah.
I love that one.
That was wonderful.
Love that one. No matter what happened, boom, when he was jamming, jamming on the guitar, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then when that thing went bing, he's like, he had to
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
because he was losing whiskers left and right, bro. Losing whiskers. Even to
Yeah.
the point where he thought he could hide in a closet. My man came out with a big ass axe. Bam, bam, bam. And he just said, wait, white flag. Bing.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
gave it to him. He gave it to him.
That was
Oh, and the other one where Tom and his other cat were fighting over this female cat. They would try to outdo one another. And
yeah.
then time Tom got the upper hand on the other cat, knocked him away, and he slid right on over with a guitar, and all you heard them. Cuando te
Yeah, yeah,
quiero. I'm like, this brother is singing. I gotta tell you, man,
yeah.
it brings back so many memories, so many memories. And with memories, we're gonna come back and relive some more. But for right now, I'm down. Take us to commercial.
And we're
Hey, and we're back. Welcome again to Ricans. I'm Mo.
I'm Lou.
And last we were having this discussion regarding Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Yes.
And one came to mind, if I'm not mistaken. What was that again? We were talking about Tom and Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you were mentioning we were talking about the uncle, and the one that I just started remembering, right, was the time where they had the little cousin that was from France, the French mouse. I love that. Love the French mouse. Every time he was part of the Musketeers, but every time in training, he see the cat. Hangoz hele pussycat. And
Yes.
every time you hear Tom screaming, it's because what? The little guy chomped off a piece of his tail, going, "Touche le pussycat."
Yes.
You gotta love those. I mean, they're as nostalgic. I'm as nostalgic as they come with these cartoons because, quite frankly, they were fun.
Yes.
They weren't extremely graphic. They were humorous, and you just laugh your ass off just watching these things. And like I said, with the "Don't you believe it," it stays with you. And then things in life they come up, and you just remember that cartoon in that moment for that purpose. And I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Now, the other one I was coming into mind that when it came to funny moments was Dastardly and Muttley. Or shall I say, Dick Dastardly and his sidekick, the laughing dog, Muttley. I mean, if I had a wheeze, I'd probably do the laugh, but I can't. I can't laugh like that. That's about as best as you're gonna get from me. But no
Muttley.
matter what, it always had that famous, funny laugh. Always, always. When they did like the wacky races, it was their version of the live action. What was it again with Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise? Where
Smokey
they
and the
did that.
Bandits.
Not only that one, but when they had those guest stars and they were doing that race across the country. I'm trying to remember the
Ah,
name of that. The
yeah.
Cannonball Run. The Cannonball Run. Dom
Yes.
DeLuise would come out with some character. Dun, dun, dun. Because
Yes.
he was too shy and his alter ego was that character. But yeah, it's reminiscent of that. And they always had some funny moments, a flat or an engine loss, or the next thing you know it, they just lost their car and they're just pretty much like putting something together and they're just pushing and trying to win the race.
Muttley was my favorite.
Oh, come on. He was the only one when they did catch the pigeon. Every time they were going after this pigeon. And the funny thing is, I only watched it back. I mean, when I watched it as a kid, I didn't think nothing. Oh, they trying to catch the pigeon. But as I got older, I kind of got the nostalgic of the history behind it, being that it was during the war, and I don't know if it was World War II at the time, where they used carrier pigeons to send messages to each other, right? So in that case, there was a special squad assigned to try and catch these pigeons for real and kill them before they got their message across. Hence the cartoon, Catch
Right.
That Pigeon. And it made me laugh because, no matter what happened, the pigeon outsmarted them. They lose their planes. And the only character that is not falling to his death or falling to some catastrophe is Muttley, because that tail all of a sudden turned into a perfect propeller. perfect propeller as
Yeah.
he's trying to land. And unlike any other dog, you only get to him if you give him a medal. The bigger, shinier, the better the medal, the more he's willing to, okay, I'll save you, or okay, I'll do this for you.
Now you have to wonder, did Sonic the Hedgehog, that character, get the inspiration from Muttley's tail? Because Tails from Sonic, same concept. Tail spins, he flies. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good thought right there, because it is true that when you think about how everything translates from one to another, you take the idea, you make a new one. So yes, I believe completely, yeah, that you're right. They did take that idea and they probably added that to there, so that way they could, how can I say, take advantage of it and turn it into something else.
Yeah. That was, yeah. Now, Mo,
Shoot.
subject
Mm-hmm.
is my favorite, because it was a spin off of my favorite superhero, Mighty Mouse.
Yes, the Superman of all mouses. Yes. Do you remember the song back in those days? Oh God, I
Slightly,
couldn't get
slightly,
it.
slightly. It's like,
Oh my
here
God.
I come. His
To
favorite
save
thing,
the
here I
day.
come, save the day. Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
that mighty mouse is on his way. And then always he's like machine gun with the fist. Every time he
Yes.
punches, it's like not one punch that would send you. No, it is a multitude. He's like was the Donnie Yo of I call it combative mouses. He just comes, forget about it, and just put you down. But yeah, Mighty Mouse was, I cannot remember a time where I didn't sit down waiting to hear that song. Come
Yes.
on.
And
Oh
then,
my God. And there
uh,
he is. Mighty
and
Mouse come to save the day.
and who can forget the Batman spinoff? Well, not the Batman spinoff, the Batman spoof. Uh,
Oh,
uh, Minute
Courageous
Mouse
Cat and
and the
Minute
Minute Mouse.
Mouse.
Yes.
Oh my God. Dun, 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 dun,
Yes.
dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. God, I
Yeah.
can't remember. Oh, yes, I'm singing it, folks. Dun, dun, dun. Then he shoot the gun. Bit it. Bit
Yes.
it. I mean, come on. Oh, you see, this is the beautiful thing about these cartoons for us growing up. It's like they leave an impression, obviously, and you never forget that feeling that you had when you watched it. Yeah, that cool feeling. Oh my God, here he is! And of course, the two characters in question, they're of course the Batman and Robin of cartoons, to say the least. You had the Cat Cave. Come on, the cave was shaped as a cat. Hello,
Yes.
the Cat Cave, the car. Oh, the cool car, and then everything you can think of out of one gun.
Yes.
One. I'm like really? You packed that all in there to one gun? A rope gun,
Well,
parachute gun,
it's
a
kind of like the
noise
Batman.
gun.
No, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. It's kind of like the Bat Belt. Like
Well, yeah, you had the Batman in '60. Oh yeah, the
yeah,
Bat Belt, the little credit card that flip, 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 open up. Now you
yeah,
had a bat shield big enough for both him and the Boy Wonder.
exactly.
The time when they didn't have suits, and he had two pills, put it into warm water. And not only did they create bat suits, but they had full utility belts with them.
Yes.
You just can't write this, bro.
No,
You're just, well, no, it was written. What am I saying? We watched it. It's
but
like,
that thing reminds me of the what's that toy that you put it in water and it creates a toy? Uh
oh,
yes. You know what I said. You know what I'm saying.
yeah. Where it was just like you put it
It,
in water and then it grow up into the actual toy.
yeah, it's like a
That you
spongy
want,
thing.
like, the
Yeah.
spongy thing, and it's like, oh, okay, but you sit there and you're like, grow,
Yeah,
grow.
yeah,
You
yeah,
add
yeah.
more water, and I'm the only idiot that just dropped more water, thinking it'll grow more.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
grow. Now it went from soft to spongy to soggy, and then dissolved because Oh, I put too much. Wait, let me see if hot water will help it. No,
Yeah.
I was the mad scientist figuring that one out, bro. But you gotta love that. It just,
Yeah.
it's like it takes me back to that time. You know, it's like I always say, if it takes me back to being like 8 or 9 again, I'm gonna love it because that's that was the best time when you were a kid when you're watching all these cartoons. I mean, now it's a little different. As an adult, it's the best time ever because thanks to computer technology and CGI, a lot of characters and things and movies that we would have never have thought of now made reality. You could, who'd have thought a live action Scooby Doo would have a 3D Scooby Doo?
You know?
The dog. I mean, you couldn't get a dog to behave this way, but you can make a 3D version of him, and there you go. When you look at even superhero films, I mean, the comparison of the 77 Superman, where it said, we'll make you believe a man can fly, to what you see now, Cavill and Hedgeclin and all the others, Brandon Rao coming up, that CGI, especially like from Superman Returns, that pivotal scene that he's following, they got it following down this airplane that's crashing so that he can get right up in front of it and grab and hold on to it and then give you that realistic of that he stops it in midair and then brings it down. I'm like, wow. I mean, the best closest to that was Superman with Christopher Reeve, but that was a sound stage, a mini, a mini model, and it just had him hoisted up, and then it flew, and it just right there take over the plane and helped it to land. But this one, he actually grabbed. You see him flying around it and grab it and bring it down to safety. That's like wow. So it's like the beauty of the CGI now. How it just brings everything to life.
I
Those
posted
things you
a
never thought could now can.
I posted an old scene from the Superman of the 70s, the
Mm-hmm.
second one when Zod comes and everything.
Oh.
And it was the part where the female bad guy grabs the bus and throws that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a small scale. She stood behind, like I think it was 20 feet to make it look. Yeah, the special effects at that time was incredible.
Yes, it was
It
back in
was
those days. Yeah, and
it
then you
wasn't
just
no
had like
big
a
CGI.
you had like a paper mache version of a bus,
Yes.
coming into Christopher Reeve to stop. But again, it's then and then now. I mean, when you see the battle scene between Zod and Superman in Man of Steel, whew,
Yeah.
I mean, it got real. I mean, it got real. Like what?
But
When he's flying down and coming with the steel iron and then he uses the heat vision to cut it, but he still got smacked with it. But it's like wow, it's like all that CGI. It's incredible that when you see some of the behind the scenes stuff, it's like oh damn. That some of it they don't know that it's there. They have to pretend that it's there.
yeah, but the new movies to me lack the human aspect. For example, Superman, one of my favorite scenes is when Lois trying to figure out that Superman and Clark Kent are one and the same. When they go
Hmm.
to Niagara Falls
Mm.
and then he burns his hand.
You know, there's a version that I've seen, an unedited version, because most people don't know that Superman 1 and 2 were actually filmed back to back.
Right.
They had a different scene in which she finds out he's Superman. Instead of him tripping clumsily and putting his hand on the fire and she's figuring it out, oh, his hand's not burned, she actually pulled out a 38, right? A 38, but it had blanks.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know that. And he says, if I shoot you, you're Superman. If you die, well, there's going to be one hell of a story. And then she pulls the trigger, and then he then became like he looked. He didn't see the bullet, but he psychologically it snapped him out of Clark and made him behave as Superman.
I
And
like
then
that.
that's what you
I
feel
like
out. It's like, how am I going to kill you with blanks?
I like the other version better because in the part where he burned his hand, he's hunched over Clark Kent, but then he
Mm-hmm.
just stands up straight. Like
Yeah.
that to me, that's great acting when
Hmm.
you can do that. That I've seen that happen in Superman, and I've seen that happen in The Godfather when the Godfather when the lawyer's son has to tell the father that he died, that his older son died,
Hmm.
and he just before he cries or tears up, he just takes a deep breath, like he felt it, and he made
Right.
you feel it. You know that to me, that's acting. That is amazing acting when you can do that and have the people feel what you're feeling.
Hmm.
I thought that was amazing for both movies. Not so many movies do that nowadays.
True. I mean, there's one I can think of.
Which one?
It's more of a comedy than it is a drama.
Which
And
is
then that whole transformation scene of Jim Carrey from Me and Myself and Irene when he went from himself to Hank. Like that one moment that he snapped, and then you hear that dun 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 na 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 na, and you see him just going through this whole, I say, crumbling, and then and now he's Hank. And it's like he went through that whole transformation. And from that point forward, the hilarity of the things that he wouldn't do as Charlie, he did as Hank. Like he drowned a little girl so she could teach him to obey the law.
right.
I'm like, but that's also that whole transformation. It's like it's beautifully, it's comedically done, not as dramatic, but funny. But when you think about it, it takes a lot to show the audience you becoming one into another. No special effects. It's just boom and then bang, and how everything just happens. And
Yeah.
then from that point forward, you're like, wow, you really did become Hank, or he really is Superman because now he's not slouching. Now he's standing up straight. Now he's Superman,
Yeah.
and that's beautiful. It's beautifully done. Yeah, I I remember that scene. But that other one was the supposedly the original scene unedited, and I was like, what? When I looked, I was like you, I was like, that's a little different. She just psyched him out.
Yeah.
Whereas in that version, he did it to himself. He literally did that to himself on purpose. I guess he got tired, as he said himself. He got tired of hiding in the lies or whatever. Bang! Now here I am. Here I am. You know, it's in the comic books you don't see that. In the comic books you see words, and then you'll see a split second of something that he done, like in one panel. But then the words then take over and then explain everything to you. You know, like how they got Superman and Clark Kent to stand side by side with one another, even though it was Martian Manhunter who melded himself to look like Clark Kent. So that to
Hmm.
spell the idea that they're both one and the same, they're separate. Iron Man did the same thing in his comic book when he had the telepresence device on his forehead, like he used in Spider-Man. Was it Homecoming? We had the telepresence, and he was somewhere, I don't know, in India, but the armor was there. The
Batman
armor
in
was speaking to him.
the Batman 66, they did something like that with Alfred dressed as Batman driving the Batmobile.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those things. Like for so many years, I mean, isn't now? It's now it's different. Now they just blurt it out. Like when they did the first Iron Man, it compiled 30 years worth of comic books right into one movie. At the very end, when he goes, "I am Iron Man," you know how many years that took to for him to even say that. You know, like in the comic book, and then in the movie, 2 hours later, he's saying it.
Yeah.
No telepresence. The telepresence armor was now within is used as a good, plot or a good idea that now he's in the technology. He doesn't have to always be in his armor. And then he managed to talk to Spider-Man while he's in New York, while he's in Bali or whatever, with the telepresence, which but used in the comic book to disguise himself
Hmm.
or show to the world that Iron Man and Tony Stark are not the same.
Hmm.
You gotta love those. You gotta love the plot twists and ideas, and then how they then become used in other areas for the purpose of promoting the whole secret identity.
Yeah.
Each hero that's come out that's ever worn a mask, from Spider-Man to I mean, not Cap. Well, somewhat Captain America, but from Spider-Man, who definitely needed to keep his identity secret. Tony Stark, who definitely was trying to keep it. Batman, and even Superman. But Superman was more superficial. It
I
was
don't know.
more superficial.
I think Iron Man liked the fact that he's able to play in both worlds.
Of course, of course, he's a
Yeah.
billionaire, genius, philanthropist, and don't forget, playboy. So playing both worlds was kind of exciting for him because he could do this, but then play off as this. And then when people then think about it,
But
they go,
but
nah.
but at the same time, he put his family and whatever in danger,
Well,
which is why
true.
Batman
That's
keeps
that's
his a
always that's
secret.
always yes, true. That's always been the cross to bear of the hero that
Yes.
has to hide his identity so to protect his loved ones. So there have been so many stories of that where all of a sudden he's caught and people know, and all of a sudden now he's in a predicament that he cannot do what he cannot go ahead and rescue and save the day because it may now cost him something. But then he knows that all the time, every day when he does go out there to to do the acts of heroism that he knows that his power allows him to do.
Hmm.
Yes, but there's so many stories of that, so many of it. Even with Superman and Lois, when he finally came forward to the fire was it the fire chief because his son was working for him and he thought his son had powers, and he's like, no. At one point, he's like, no, we're gonna find out, and he had his two fingers. As he got close, he pushed him off with two fingers, and he's like, what the hell? He said, no, we'll discuss this later. Glasses off, and bang, he took off, and he's like, and he's like in shock, like, oh, oh. It's like no words, just like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, damn, he's Superman. So when you have those moments, it's like, wow. Like the same moments like in Smallville with Clark. You always had those Clark moments that somebody figured out he was Superman or that Clark had powers. So that was, good depending on who it was. If it was, a villain, not so good. But if it was one of his friends, you always had that conversation like, why didn't you tell me? Like, for instance, The Flash. The first time, what's his name, found out he was The Flash, it was at the time that he was averting a disaster. He said, I didn't want you to find out this way. So spins, Barry Allen's The Flash. Boom, he takes it. But reverses time. They start over. So now he can't go to Iris because she doesn't know. But she finds out another way in touching him and feeling that electricity. And it reminded him when she was laying over, watching over him while he was in a coma from the first time. And as she reached out, that same electricity touched her. Same electricity. But then came the conversation. She was extremely pissed, to say the least, that best friend, the person's closest to him, and you couldn't tell me, yet my dad knows. I was like, trying to protect you. Then that always kind of like slips the person's mind the idea of protection. So you had to work it out throughout this season for them to finally get past it, be cool, and hopefully get together. Which eventually that's what happened.
Right.
Mm.
Yep.
Oop,
Next.
need some local juice. It gets dry after a while, so yeah, I gotta hydrate.
And
So next up,
yeah.
okay, I wanted to go into some nerd news and get your feelings about something. Okay, I know you came to me, and I'm pretty sure everybody already saw this online on YouTube. We touched on this last night about the supposed trailer for what's going to be who the new James Bond is going to be, and it stated Henry Cavill, and either sidekick or nemesis was Margot Robbie. Well, I hate to say it, it's not real. It's a good fake. I
Yes.
mean,
It
good.
was good.
Had me there really had me. And I was like, wait, so they waited all, I was like, in my mind was going, they waited all this time? And so they were doing this in the background, then to announce it by doing a trailer? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Love it. And then I looked at it, I was like, wah, wah, wah. Nope, another fake. You know, because I'm looking at their lips, like, that's not what they're saying. I know this was from Uncle. Wait, I know this one, oh, Mustache. No, he didn't know. That's from Mission Impossible. Oh, I know this one. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It was great. But again, not real. And we're still, hanging in the air, waiting to find out who it's going to be. I mean, again, you have, the front runner so far that's being talked about the most, Aaron Taylor Johnson, from those who don't remember or might not recognize. I think Kick Ass is one of his credits. The other one, if I'm not mistaken, is Quicksilver from Avengers Age of Ultron. And then my personal favorite, which I can't wait till it's out, Sony's is coming out with Kraven the Hunter. And he's playing the title role of Kraven. And from what I've seen from the trailer, I'm like, woo,
Yes.
woo, woof.
I can't
I
wait.
mean, if you had to go with the physicality of being James Bond, he's got it. He's got that. But, and age-wise, I'm sure he's a little younger. But as far as him playing the debonair spy that we all come to love from being James Bond, especially when it comes to women, how that charm turns on when it comes to the beautiful women of Bond, don't know yet. But whereas Cavill, we do know.
Mm-hmm.
He already done spy films like Man from Uncle. Hell, there's this one out now. Was it? Oh my God, the something about ungentlemanly warfare. Something ungentlemanly warfare. Excuse me for not having it all together, but that's the latest one that's in theaters now, and it has to do with the true story of a group that was put together to stop, I'm going to say, the Nazis' invasion
Oh,
through.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so it's also kind of a spy film as well. I mean, I'm not going to try and count Argyle because Argyle is more of a comedy, even though people say, oh, well, it was a spy film because he's playing a spy. He's not playing a spy. She's the writer of a story of a spy, and that he's playing that scene that's coming off her head, imaginary, person, but he wasn't being a spy. But if you want to go with that, okay. But still, he still had the how could I say, the charismatic presence, like in that first scene with him and Dua Lipa and the dance. Ooh, now that was hot.
Yeah.
So again, not real, getting there, and by next show we'll go into the many others that are on the long list, so that we can discuss who we think should be the next Bond, James Bond.
Yeah.
And with that, I would like to then close off the show with saying, I will leave it up to you, Money Penny. Okay? I'm Mo.
I'm Lou.
We're Puerto Ricans. And again, have a great time. Love what you enjoy. And be safe. Take care, everyone.
And we'll see you next week.
I love that.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.